everybody. Thank you very much for coming today. Lovely turnout, thank you. I've got to thank Jarmila for turning up today to talk. We were let down with somebody else, as you probably know, though I'd forgotten today. I denied all knowledge of it earlier, but never mind. That's my busy life and my busy brain. So Jarmila is a chartered civil and structural engineer and operates as a technical assessor and expert witness. She has considerable experience of working in academia, the civil service and the private sector. A fellow of institutions of civil and structural engineers, member of the European Federation of Engineering Associations, an honorary fellow of the Institute of Czech Engineers, and is a fellow of Institute of Knowledge Transfer. Jarmila has served on several boards concerned with education, equal opportunities, and promoting the public understanding of science and engineering. And today she's going to tell us all about her Trans-Siberian adventure and her trip on this fabulous train. Thank you very much. Please welcome Jarmila.
Sasha, we have to... Is that okay? Can you hear me? Yes. Well, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you for inviting me to share with you my experiences which were on the Trans-Siberian Railway. Now, I thought before I take you onto board of the train, and when we actually sit down and look around, I thought I will give you very quickly a historical background regarding the railway, to set the scene for the whole project. The railway, which is still longest on the planet, original one, is from Moscow to Vladivostok, which is 9,289 kilometers. The one I have taken is from Moscow to Peking, which deviates in Irkutsk going through Mongolia, and that is 8,961. So that's the route we shall be taking in a minute. Just to give you an idea how vast this distance is, we traverse 8 time zones. The project is obviously very challenging, very challenging from engineering point of view, and it was a childhood dream of Tsarevich Nicholas, who became Tsar Nicholas II. His idea was to connect east and west of the Russian Empire initially. However, later on, he said to himself, well, of course, Siberia is full of incredible natural resources which are exploited very inefficiently. So that route will help us to exploit these treasures more efficiently. And thirdly, to have this massive project successful, you will need people to carry out and also to live there, exploit the natural resources. So there were 3 aims for the railway. To achieve that, he formed a committee which was tasked to develop this project. As I said, hugely challenging, so the committee employed best engineers, geologists, surveyors and architects to take this project forward. It was in the design stage for 10 years with many variations before actually it took off. It was built in 7 sections, not in one, but 7 sections. They started from both ends. And supposedly there were about 60,000 people involved in the construction of the road, and mainly they were soldiers and convicts. Now, the building started in 1891 and it was completed in 1916. We have estimation of the cost was 1.5 billion Russian rubles, which is equivalent in today terms, apparently, I was told, to 750,000 modern cars, price-wise. It holds several Guinness Book of records. One is, of course, for its length, which already we said is now 1,289 kilometers, number of stations, 19, and also for the time that it took to build it, which is 25 years. So, you know, it really is an incredible achievement. And it is still very important artery in Russia, and it still carries about 30% of Russian export. Regarding electrification, the whole electrification began in 1926 and was completed in 2002. Now, initially, the railway was a single track. Later on, they extended it to double track. So, you know, it was even more challenging to add additional track. Now, this is very quickly, we will look at the situation of Siberian Railroad in the early 20s. Then later on, you can see the red line. Red line here is the traditional one, which is the Trans-Siberian. It doesn't work. Is a Trans-Russian, which is from Moscow to Vladivostok. Then you have Trans-Manchurian, which is the yellow going through Manchuria to Beijing. And the one we have taken is the so-called Trans-Mongolian, which is from Moscow to Beijing. Now, we started from Moscow, as I said, because you can, of course, start this route from both sides, from either Beijing or Moscow. So we started from Moscow, and that's the picture of Kremlin. I'm not going through showing you any sightseeing of Moscow because the whole point of this talk is to take you on the train and go along the road. Now, we started from so-called Yaroslavsky train station, which was built in 1862. And as we were going through the road, we will be stopping at X number of places, and we will be visiting, of course, these train stations. And I will always give you a couple of words about it, because each train station has got specific character and is beautifully designed, not only externally, but also internally, that you would think that you are not on the train station, in the train station foyer, but in some kind of palace or library or something. So they really put a huge amount of effort into making sure that each station along the road will have some significance for the region. Now, the train I was taking was not a regular train, which is a Trans-Siberian operating about 4 times a day, we were told, from both sides. But I was taking the private train, which is called the Tsar Gold. And that train is the historical train which was used by the Tsar. It was built in St. Petersburg as a mobile office for the Tsar. It had 26 coaches, caters for 190 people. It has 4 restaurants and 25 staff and a doctor at your disposal. Now, this is the route, exact route which we are taking, and all these places mark on the map we visited, and we will go through each one and have a very quick sightseeing around those areas. Now, this is my cabin, just to show you where I lived for 13 days. Oh, sorry, I'm not used to it. Oh, come on, Ban. The first stop, so now we are on the train. So the first stop after the Moscow is Kazan. This is, you can see, beautiful Kazan train station, which was built in 1896. And Kazan is 762 kilometers distant from Moscow. And every time we stop, I will tell you how far we are from Moscow. This is the principal town of Tatarstan, and Tatarstan is a very important part of Russian Federation, and it was in history as well, because since 11th century it was a very important trade and political center of the region. It was totally destroyed during various wars and also by fires, because Russia is and was very, very rich in timber, as you will see in Siberia, infinite amount of timber. So most housing is constructed from timber. So fire damage was a very usual occurrence. So, as I said, this Kazan was destroyed totally during the war and rebuilt by Catherine the Great in the 18th century. And since 2013, there were significant modernization and enhancement to public infrastructure. The very important historical center we visited is Kazan Kremlin. Just in case you are not aware, Kremlin means in Russian fortress. So it is not the Kremlin, you know, Moscow, everybody knows Moscow, Kremlin, but actually it means fortress. So every place of some significance had Kremlin, where the master or governor or ruler of the region lived and was protected with these walls. So now we will actually go through it's a massive complex, as you can see, and I will take you through a couple of points so you have idea what we have seen. So we are just walking through. These are buildings dating back to 15th, 16th century. Everything is, of course, refurbished or restored. And one thing was very interesting for us to learn. The Kazakhs are mainly Muslims. So Tatarstan is occupied mainly by Muslims. And so, you know, we were a little bit, not worried, but interesting to see how they cohabit with Christians. And they told us there is no problem whatsoever. They live in harmony. An example of it is, so you can see, of course, this is the Russian Orthodox Church. And very near, we are still within complex of the Kazan Kremlin. They have built modern mosque, which was built in 2005, and that is for Muslims. So, you know, there is no problem there. We were not able, sorry for this, I mean, this is nonsense. There is no problem with them to go to the mass and whatever Muslims have. So, you know, it's quite, we were not able to make any photographs in the Orthodox churches throughout Russia. We were able to photograph it outside, but not. We were able to go in, but not taking photographs. But here, we were able to, so I'm just showing you, it's all modern, but, you know, elaborate, absolute elaborate decoration inside. There are other buildings. They have also leaning tower of Kazan. Yes. And here is a shot from the top of the walls, and you can see here is the neoclassical building from the 18th century, and it next door is modern build. And this is the panoramatic view of the Kazan Kremlin, and you can see the mosque and Orthodox Church are very near each other. So after this sightseeing of Kazan, back on the train, and the next stop was Ekaterinburg, which train station you can see on this slide, was built in 1915. And this is the modern frontage of the station. Now, Ekaterinburg is 1,816 kilometers distant from Moscow, and during the Soviet era, it was renamed as Sverdlovsk, and after the change of regime, it is now back to Ekaterinburg. This area was founded by Peter the Great in 1723, and sometimes it is known as a window to Europe, and we will see in a minute why it is so. It is a very highly industrialized area, and perhaps I will remind you what I said at the beginning, that the idea of the Tsar Nicholas was to exploit natural resources of Siberia. So every stop we will visit, or every place we will visit along the route, will have high industries which are based on the natural resources they can find around. So, here you have smelting plants and heavy engineering and logistics. Of course, you have modern industry, which came later. Now, similar as in other places, a lot of original buildings were destroyed because they were wooden, and only few historical buildings stayed intact. This is an example of merchants' buildings in Ekaterinburg, and this one is a seat of local governor. And anybody who knows Hermitage in Leningrad, in Petrograd, you have this is a very similar architecture. And this is an example of neoclassical Soviet style in the 30s and 50s. Now, Church on the Blood, what does it mean? I'm sure that most of you, maybe everybody, knows that Ekaterinburg is also known for the tragic event where Tsar or imperial family was imprisoned and finally they were executed in Ekaterinburg. And Yeltsin, who was a governor in 2000, he ordered to build the church which on the place of Ipatiev house where they were actually executed. So this is a result of it, and I tell you, it was incredible. Again, no, we were not able to take any photographs, but I had never seen anything like this. You had 2 floors below the ground, and of course, above you have this superstructure. They have used 120 kilograms of gold to decorate not only externally but internally, and even more surprising was that the whole structure cost $600,000 US, from which apparently only 10% was gifted by the government, and another 90% was raised by the donations. So it's an incredible feat of art, because if you didn't know that this is a new church, which was consecrated in 2003, you would think it's an old Orthodox church, outside and inside. So it was really very, very interesting. So now we are here. Why? It is a window to Europe, because, of course, not far from Ekaterinburg, there is a geographical boundary between Asia and Europe. And this obelisk was built by Tsar Alexander II, which shows the demarcation between the Europe and Asia. Now, if you look at, I don't know how it doesn't work. On the left-hand side, you will see in Cyrillic written Europe. So if you stand on the side of the line, if you cross the line, you are in Asia. This is in Cyrillic. So we had had a nice celebration there, and so very, very nicely done and interesting indeed. Now I have to show you this because when you, unless you see it, it's very difficult to actually explain. When you go through Siberia, you will see this acres, acres, acres of wonderful birch trees. I just can't explain it. It was something fantastic. So this is one of shots to show you what I mean. It's just amazing. You just drive and there are millions and millions of them. Wonderful. So next stop after Ekaterinburg is Novosibirsk. Novosibirsk station is built, or was built rather, in 1893, and is one of the largest in the Russian Federation. The floor size is about 3,000 square meters, which again is built in neoclassical style. This is the detail of the frontage, very beautiful. And inside, again, you know, it's you wouldn't think it's a railway station. Novosibirsk is 2,811 kilometers distant from Moscow, and it was founded in 1893 on the Ob River. And again, here it's a very important transport, commercial and industrial hub. And the other interesting thing about this particular area is that during Second World War, the Russians moved a large amount of industries and relocated from European Russia to, of course, prevent to be destroyed by fascists, and also making sure that the war effort against fascists will be supplied by hardware and enough tanks and ammunition and so on. And still, again, it's still very, very important industrial hub, including now new sciences and major research centers. Example of neoclassical architecture, a typical homage to workers. And this is the river. As you know, I'm an engineer, so I have to mention the only two things of engineering on this talk. This bridge is very unique because it is over 2 kilometers long. Rivers there are phenomenal, absolutely wonderful. But why it is so interesting? Because they were built in 9 sections, and these sections were prefabricated. And we are talking about the 19th century. Prefabrication is a normal process nowadays, but you know, it was really avant-garde idea to do this, so that's why I'm showing this. And another one, very interesting one was, of course, from modern time. This is the longest metro bridge in the world, and it was built in 1986. But what is interesting on this, that expansion between summer and winter, of course it's a steel structure, is about 0.5 meter, which is not much. So I don't know whether you find it interesting, but sorry I had to put it in. Now, I said we are in Siberia, so here we are. We were there first 2 weeks in September, and we were welcomed by snowstorm. Not a huge one, but you can see here is a snow, so we know that we are in Siberia. And now we are on the train carrying on, and there are a couple of shots of the countryside. And now we are approaching Krasnoyarsk. Krasnoyarsk train station again is a different architectural design. As I said, each one has different features, and it was built in 1895. And Krasnoyarsk is 4,065 kilometers from Moscow. It was founded in 1628 and constructed as a fort to protect the frontier. You know, the Russian Federation, of course, now, before it was the Russian Empire, has a massive, massive border with all sorts of thousand, in those days, tribes. And so they constantly were invaded and skirmishes. So to protect the frontier, Krasnoyarsk was deemed as an important place where the garrison was based. And effectively, it's for border guard, really. What is very interesting about Krasnoyarsk and the region is that there is an extensive nature reserve around the Yenisei River, which is the largest river system flowing into Arctic Ocean. And again, a lot of factories were relocated to this area. Now this, unfortunately, it was misty and it was slightly rainy, but you can see the vastness of this Yenisei River. It's huge. It's absolutely huge. Now here is very interesting picture because that shows the Siberian sturgeon. And why it is this fish is remembered? Because it really is a historical fish, which was 300 kilograms. Massive, absolutely massive fish, and apparently it lived over 60 years. It was not killed, obviously it was a rarity, and I was wondering how much caviar it would be if they killed it, you know. But yeah, it's a stainless steel, it's beautifully done, and it oversees this beautiful Yenisei Valley. And here, and again, you can see the wonderful birch trees. I just couldn't get enough of them. Now, this is another shot of Siberian countryside. It was early in the morning, and you can see the frost on the ground. Of course, the building is all wooden. So now just remind ourselves how far we progressed. So we started in Moscow. I see what you mean. You see Moscow, then we went through all this, and now we are in Krasnoyarsk. That's the one we just finished. And now we are on the way to Irkutsk. Very important center. Oh, God, sorry. Oh. So this is the shot of Irkutsk train station, which was built in 1899. This is the detail of the frontage, just to show you how beautifully it is designed. Irkutsk is 4,206 kilometers from Moscow, and it was founded as in 1661. And Irkutsk is and was extremely important administrative center for the region, and also very important hub connecting Russian regions and Mongolia. An industry which is, of course, modern industry is Ilyushin, Sukhoi, and Tupolev, which is aviation industry. Now, only again very few historical buildings survived because were destroyed by fire and other skirmishes. So this was the seat of the local governor. Now it is a museum. Here you can see example of the cathedral, which was built in 1746. Another lovely chapel here, nicely refurbished. And what was interesting, outside Irkutsk is an outdoor park. The idea is exactly the same as St. Fagans. But in this area, they showcase you the examples of town architecture of Siberia. All these houses are wooden. Of course, the bases are not, they are on concrete. So that is one example, and this is another example. All these are commercially utilized, so they are either hotels or some information centers and so on. It's very nicely done. You can go actually inside and enjoy it. Now we are on the route to the famous and legendary Lake Baikal. And again, we were taken to another external outdoor museum, which in this case is showcasing the architecture of the settlers. And you will see the difference. Again, I'm emphasizing everything is wooden. So that's the example of the housing. This is the example of the initial, or shall we say, original settlers, where on the left-hand side you can see the yurt for people, and on the right-hand side this covered, you can say, walkway is for animals. Because, of course, we must remember in Siberia winters are very, very heavy and terrible, really. Example of churches. We are still in that complex. And now we are approaching the legendary Lake Baikal. Where is it? Yeah. Now, again, before we actually look at some pictures, I thought it will be interesting to give you very quickly some statistics about Lake Baikal. It's, of course, the UNESCO heritage site, and it is the largest freshwater lake on the planet. It holds 23% of total fresh water globally. So you can see the massiveness of it. It's 1,700 meters deep, 633 kilometers long, and 79 kilometers wide. And also, in the area and in the water, there are many rare animal species and plants. And other very interesting thing about Lake Baikal is that it is fed by 300 flowing rivers, but it drains through only one river, which is the Ankara River. That's very nice, very interesting rather. Another very interesting thing is, they told us, we didn't see it because the water was quite, it wasn't really calm. If the conditions are calm, the visibility is 40 meters, which I can't imagine, I know, exactly. But many people told us this, so it must be true. But it was clear, but 40 meters is a hell of a deep. So here is a couple of shots of Lake Baikal. Sorry. I'm Lake Baikal. And now we will spend few minutes on this slide and a little bit later on other things. So just to remind you, we were in Irkutsk, okay, and from Irkutsk we were transported on the buses. We were transported along the river Ankara. That's the river I told you about. Yeah, so that's the river Ankara, to a town which is called Baikal. That's why Lake Baikal. Initially, the Trans-Siberian Railway actually went this way. It went through along the river and it terminated in Baikal. From this point, across the lake to this side, the trains and the passengers and everybody were transported on ferries. Now, of course, it was logistically not only very expensive, but also hazardous. It was totally ineffective during winter. So what the committee decided, they decided to actually build a railway, which will go from Baikal to, I have to consult, I forgot the name of this, Kirkuk, I think it is, sorry. Kulkuk, that's the place there, from where the initial railroad started, like this, and then the ferry picked them up somewhere here, and they carried on to other place. So that is the original one. Then this one, which I will talk about in a minute. And now, of course, this road is not accessible to ordinary train because normal train doesn't go this way. But they built from 1953 until 1953. You had this road was used, this railway was used, but since 1953 it's not possible to use the ordinary train, but only for tourists. And the new road, the railroad from Irkutsk to Kirkuk is the black line. And now we will look at this incredible, absolutely incredible, and I will tell you, we will see in a minute, engineering undertaking, which is the Circumbaikal rail. Again, if we look at the statistics, even if one is not engineer, you will see the complexity of it. It was surveyed in 1894, constructed between 96 and 905, and it's only 89 kilometers. So, you know, it's not very, very long. However, you had 38 tunnels, 15 stone galleries, 248 bridges and viaducts, and 268 retaining walls. So you can see how complex this was, but anyway, they managed to do it. And because, as I said, we were tourists, we were able to sample that 89 kilometers along this wonderful stretch. And what they have done, that bit, which I said normally the whole road is electrified from Moscow to Beijing, but not this bit. So they changed the engine for diesel electric, which is fitted with the viewing platforms, so you are able to stand there and have a look. So here is me looking at the front, and these are just a few commercial pictures to show you how narrow it is. Certainly they couldn't put two rails, and one tunnel after another. And here's an example of one of the galleries. So you see, it is absolutely amazing, I must say. Now, we stopped at 110th kilometer along the road, and we were welcomed by the local local residents with elaborate picnic and festivities and so on. And also they told us there is a legend about Lake Baikal. And the legend says, who bathes or swims in the water will keep eternal youth. So have a guess who tested to distraction. It was me, and after we were given a copious big tumbler of lovely Russian vodka. So it was 10 degrees. It was quite cold, but not 10 degrees. Yes, yeah. And after festivities and all this, back on the train and along the Lake Baikal, it was over 2 days we actually, because you know it's over 600 kilometers, so over 2 days we were actually driving along. And now we are just going through the countryside towards next stop. You see how the countryside is changing from this very flattish Siberian and very, very forested to more hilly and less vegetation. So here again another example. And now we are at Ulaanbaatar, which is here. No, sorry, not Ulaanbaatar. Ulan-Ude, which is the train station and last train station in Russian Federation. It was built in 1900, and here again you can see the frontage of it, and you see the architecture is a lot more modest than when we saw in other places, but it goes with the ambience of that region. Now, Ulan-Ude is 5,609 kilometers from Moscow. It was founded in 17th century, and original population are Buryats. And it was also very much populated by Russian Cossacks, who again acted as a border guard for that region. And it was, and still it is, important trading center which connects Mongolia with Mongolia and China. This is very quickly, this is a photograph of the historical commercial center of Ulan-Ude. And these are just a couple of shots of modern architecture. This is the traditional architecture, this street. And here, I'm sure everybody recognizes this. It's a bust of Lenin. Now, I know that I can seem a little bit apprehensive expressions here, but you see, Buryats, they have very interesting life philosophy, which is not to get rid of history, not to twist history, not to cancel history, but learn from it. And so they left this bust because if you forget who it is, then it is really beautiful artwork. It's 77 meters high, and the actual head is I just have to look, I forgot. It's made of bronze, of course. They use 42 tons of bronze. So in itself, it's a unique sculpture. And you can see how small people are compared to that. And you know what? This is the major tourist attraction for Ulan-Ude. Every tourist knows about it, so they want to see it. The next stop we made was in the theater. In every place we've been in theater, but I thought I will mention it here because it was very interesting, because we were entertained by the local artists, showing us not only their national instruments and costumes, but also they demonstrated throat singing. Throat singing is incredible art, I suppose. They call it art. To us Westerners, well, you know, you take it, you learn from it, but it's a funny noise. They call it throat singing, and it's a apparently technique which is learned from childhood. So you know, not everybody can do it. So anyway, so that I just thought I will mention it. Now back on the train, and we're carrying on, and you see how the countryside is changing, and we are now approaching Mongolia. You see how it gets more and more hilly, more barren, less greenery, and now we are leaving the Russian Federation and entering Mongolia. A huge difference in countryside, as you can see here. Mongolia is very, very barren. Practically most of the country is desert or steppe. So just a couple of slides to show you what I mean. And now we are stopping at Ulaanbaatar, which is the capital of Mongolia. This station was built in 1949. Don't forget, we are not now. We left the main Trans-Siberian, and from Irkutsk now we are following the Mongolian route. And that's why it was 1949, because obviously the other stations were built a lot earlier. So that's the example of it. And Ulaanbaatar is 7,622 kilometers from Moscow, and it was founded in 17th century as a nomadic and Buddhist monastic center. Now, 17th century, yes, but that area was really very, very important in 15th, 16th century during the Silk Road, because it was very, very important trading center on the Silk Road. But 17th century, it was more organized, and you have actually physical structures. In those days, it was very nomadic, really. So 17th century is given as a foundation of Ulaanbaatar. It's a very fast growing city. We will have a couple of slides to see. And again, of course, because it's a capital, so it's a political, cultural, and industrial center. Main industry in Mongolia is mining, and of course, the main product they have is gold, a huge amount of gold. Now, Mongolia is also known as a country of blue sky. And why? Because the annual rainfall is only 200 millimeters to 220 millimeters, which is nothing. So that's why when we will see, or what we will see, is so barren, so parched, because practically there is no rain. And this is the historical plan of the Ulaanbaatar of 17th century, which was built around the huge monastery, which we will visit in a minute. So that's the historical map of it. This is the example of the modern, hyper-modern architecture. Here you can see is the blend of neoclassical and the modern architecture. And of course, we would not be in Mongolia if we would not see practically everywhere statues of Genghis Khan. The man is their god. Again, it doesn't matter what he did, because actually we have to give him one thing, and nobody yet actually was able to beat him in this particular aspect, which is that he formed the largest ever empire in the world, and it was not yet, I don't think it will ever be beat by anybody else. So he is their god, and as I say, you have a huge amount of statues and commemorations, and so that's him, Genghis Khan. And now we are visiting the monastery, which is nicely refurbished, and here is the entrance to the monastery. Here you have a couple of examples of buildings. You can see the practicing monks, they are mingling around. And I don't know if you know, but they don't work. They are kept by donations, people bring them food and so on, but they don't work, they just pray. This is the example of the, or remnant rather, of the original wall surrounding the monastery, and at the back you can see is the modern architecture. Now again, we visited theatre, and the reason why I'm showing you this, because it was very interesting. We were not able to take any photographs during the performance, but certainly we were able to take photographs in the foyer, where was the exhibition of shamanistic art. Interestingly, we were told that particularly young people are returning to shamanism. They are Buddhists, mainly Buddhists, but they are returning to shamanism. And so these masks are actually a true mask. It's not a effigy or anything. When they have these shamans, when they have their rituals, so they actually wear it. It's 2 meters. It's huge, absolutely huge. So one interesting thing. Now, why we were not able to take any photographs? Because we were entertained by these girls. It's a national contortionism is a national sport for women, or rather girls. And these girls are trained from the age of 3, and they can perform until they are 13, if they are very, very, very good, until the age of 15, because then the body changes. So these are all commercial photographs. I'll show you 1 or 2. So it was absolutely incredible. If you see them in flesh, it was just, look at it. It was, well, I can't explain it. It was unbelievable, really unbelievable. So after the performance, following day, now we are visiting Mongolian National Park. And if you remember, I mentioned that in the very past, in the Middle Ages actually, it was very, very important center on the Silk Road. And of course, the whole communication was camel caravans. So this is the monument or remembering the Silk Road caravans and history of that era. So now we are on the bus. We are on the bus and we are approaching this park, and you will see what I mean. It's all very barren, very barren. Only when you have a little bit of water, well, not little bit, when you have water, so you have some greenery, you have some trees, and these camels, they are working camels. You know, they use them like we use horses, and so they are all the time used, and very, very important for their diet as well, because they use every bit of them. So now we are at this national park. It was incredible. All these geological formations are natural. Nothing was, so if you look at this here, you can see it's a face of a grumpy person. Can you see it? This, if you look at this one, so we were told it is kind of Chinese sage. You see his slanted arms and his hat. Absolutely incredible. Look, this is all natural, all natural. It's amazing. Now this one, can you see? This is a tortoise here, all natural. And now, of course, again, we have this guy Genghis Khan, and we are visiting his country club, where we had lunch in the restaurant, and also we were entertained now by a national sport for men, which is wrestling. So they showed us their art there. They also show us another national sport is archery. Not apparently, actually this woman, she beat it man, so we were very pleased about that. And also they showed us we had a fashion show. They showed us their national costumes, which was quite interesting as well. And after that, we are back on the train in Ulaanbaatar and on the way to China. However, before we reached Chinese border, we stopped at Gobi Desert. But of course, Gobi Desert, everyone knows, which is absolutely huge, and very interesting stop we had. Just again, couple of statistical information here. It's a vast wilderness, 1,000 kilometers north to south, and towards 4,000 kilometers east to west. Absolutely huge, which is mainly grass and sand. They also told us there are massive reserve of coal, copper, molybdenum, gold, and uranium. And also they told us there's about 10 billion tons of coal underneath the Gobi Desert. So that's the example of it, how vast and how desolate it is. And we stopped, it was 4:30 in the morning. We stopped at this point because the local herdsman, he was proud to show us his camels. So here they are, you see, they are all laughing at us. And also, they entertain us with their local instruments and throat singing. And this chap, he is the herdsman. He was showing us, and we actually were able to taste the products from camel's milk, which was quite interesting. And after this, back on the train, and carrying on now, you can see the color change. It's about lunchtime, but still no vegetation as such. It's just is vast wilderness, really. And now we are stopping at the last border town in Mongolia, And at this point, we are leaving the Tsar Gold train. Again, I must say, because we are on the private train, that's the last stop on this train. If you took the regular train, it will go through. You don't disembark. But because we were on this private train, we were transferred to China on the coaches, and the first border town in China is Siberian, which is 8,270 kilometers from Moscow. And again, we were welcome in the theater. Everything is super modern, hyper modern, very clean, huge. Obviously, everything is very huge. There's a lot of them, of course. And we were welcomed by the mayoress of the Siberian. This is our guide, and this is French guide. We had two languages. It was English and this one was French. And again, local, not artists, but local volunteers put on phenomenal show. So I will just show you a couple of pictures so you will see what, so these girls here, these are the traditional Chinese music and costumes. This is some from Mongolian history. And once we were entertained and welcomed to China, we are now boarding the Chinese sleeper, which will take us to Beijing. So off the Tsar Gold, now we are on the Chinese train. And now we have a couple of shots in the morning of Chinese countryside, which you can see is again totally different from what we have seen in Russia, what we have seen in Mongolia. A lot more hilly, a lot more vegetation, and you see very, very imposing things we can see here. And here we are. We now arrive at the Beijing, which is our terminus, 8,961 kilometers from Moscow. This station was built in 1959, but before I finish my talk, I have to share with you statistics about this station. Now, construction of this station started in January and finished in September of the same year, which was 9 months. 9 months. The vastness of it speaks for itself. The total area is 250,000 square meters, from which the station building is over 46,000 meters. Huge. And of course, why they can do it? Because at the peak construction, they employed over 2 billion people. So now we can understand why these Chinese can build things so quickly, because they have infinite amount of people who will put their hands and have shovel and actually talk about it. Now, what's the future plan? The future plan is to build high speed from Moscow to Beijing. There are few sections already in being. However, whether or when it will be finished, who knows? Thank you for your listening. If you have any questions, I am happy to answer. If not, I'm happy not.
Thank you. There's a man coming with a microphone. You have to go back and turn it on. Yes. But please have the microphone to make your question, otherwise we don't get any words on the recording. Who wants it first? Thank you, John.
Well, can I say, first of all, how wonderful that was? Absolutely marvellous. I was lucky enough myself to go take my mother on her 80th birthday on the Trans-Siberian train, and I'll never forget it. But I can assure you, this wonderful description we've had of the route of the train inside the Trans-Siberian Express it was not all elegance. It was not like the Orient Express. And I'm just wondering if you can tell us what the food was like on the Trans-Siberian Express, traveling from Novosibirsk into Irkutsk, because I have vivid memories of them. And I hadn't better say too much about my experience when I went down to Lake Baikal and tried a couple of their dumplings down there. I have to say I had a severe reaction. But I'm just wondering if the Trans-Siberian Express, should anyone wish to travel on it now, is in fact more luxurious. What are the facilities inside the train itself?
Yes. Well, John, thank you very much for your question. I must emphasize again the difference between your experience and my experience is different because we were on the private train. And that private train was specially catering for tourists. And I must say, 5-star standard. It was incredible. You had Michelin chefs on it, and it was everything fresh. If we were driving or riding through, I don't know where there was fishery, so we had everything fresh meat, fresh fish, fresh vegetable. Everything was, I must say, absolutely fantastic. Booze was very cheap. Booze. Drink was very cheap. Russian champagne, by the way, is very, very good, I must say.
Can I ask, I may have missed the dates already. You said when did you actually go?
I didn't say. I went in 2018.
2018. Oh,
yes.
So not very long ago.
Not very. And following year with the same company, I did the Silk Road.
Oh wow! Oh wow! Okay,
and it was it was on a private train. You know, you can do it commercial trains, but it's you will see everything the same. But you see, if you are interested on this train, we had, as I already alluded to it, we had English who was the main leader, and then we had a French speaker because there were people from all over the world. But there were 3 languages, of course: English, French, and German. And in our cabin, before we disembarked to visit the area, we had half an hour lecture about the place we will be visiting, historical background of it. So it was in all these languages. Of course, they knew that you speak English, so in your PA system, in your cabin. So it was fantastically organized. It's a German firm, fantastically organized.
Just amazing. Anybody else got a question? No? No people? Yeah.
I don't know if I need that.
Yeah, you do.
Yes, you do. Yeah.
Yeah, you should. It's not coming through.
Sorry. It's just a quick question. You mentioned that you did the trip on the Silk Road.
Yes.
Have you got a talk with slides?
I
about
do.
that? You do?
Yes.
Well, I hope everybody is listening.
Thank you very much. Anybody else got a quick question? No? In that case, I'll ask Jeff to give a vote of thanks to
Thank you very
Jarmila
much.
for us for this amazing talk. Thank you.
Thank you, Sally. Jarmila, thank you very much indeed. That, as John said, that was wonderful.
Thank you.
And, I'm inspired to go.
Yes, do, absolutely. But
Oh, I think
well, you see, if I may say, if you go, you will see, but you won't have the benefit of lectures. That's the point, you see,
Yes.
because, and then of course you have, when you are visiting, so we were in small groups, in minibuses, and we had a local guide. All of them spoke very good English, who were showing us, so that's the only, well, I just wanted to say, obviously cost is a massive difference, I would think.
well, John, I mean, you'll come with us as our guide, won't you? Having done it before. I can't thank you enough. And,
Oh, I'm
and thank
pleased.
you
Thank
again.
you. Absolute
That was
pleasure.
terrific.
Thank you.
Good.